Our newsroom waking up to jarring news of our journalist's death, Henry Mulindwa, who has been with the Nation media for quite some time, serving in the capacity of a supplements editor, a man who has spent more than a decade shaping as well as refining some of the publication's most critical commercial and commemorative content. A picture that you have there is of, now sad to say, the late Henry Mulindwa. I'm being joined in studio by another one of our colleagues at Nation Media Group, Derrick Wandera. It's a somber morning. Yeah, sure. Somber morning indeed. Henry has been battling different ailments for some time. About 2 weeks ago, he returned to office after his sick leave, and we all thought that it was maybe safe for him now to be in office. He looked strong, much stronger than he went. But of course, the frail face could be very, very much noticeable. He has been an interactive guy, but also very soft-spoken and very laid back in most cases. Every time I met him as a person who used to crack so many jokes, especially around in the political circles and stuff like that. Henry covered much entertainment in this country. He did a lot of work for Scoop and other magazines, but also he has been shaping so many narratives in his writings. Very good writer there. He had been elevated to the position of editor, which he has done for some time. But everyone who is talking about Henry, even on Tuesday when he was in office, he was very optimistic about life. You set with him a program, he says, "No, tomorrow I'm busy, but let me catch you maybe Thursday." I saw someone whom he promised to meet on Friday. Yeah. Little did he know that he would be... the meeting would be in a different circumstance. Yeah, in different circumstances. So that was him, a man who would crack a joke from nowhere when you met him, a man who loved his life. He stayed so much close around celebrities, covering them and stuff. So one time he I don't know from where, got very many notes of 10,000 and he was holding them in his hands. And yeah, and that picture is one of those that has been shared in this time when he went. So yeah, we are in a somber mood. Burial is today. Yesterday there was vigil in Bira along Mitiana Road. Burial is going to be today in Hoima. I mean in Mpigi. And it's going to be at 2 p.m. so actually 4 p.m. and I'm hoping that many of us are going to be there, going down there to bid him farewell. But I know that his family and friends are going to miss him so much. Okay. Yeah. In the line of work that we do, journalism, and especially for the editorial work that he was doing, let's pay tribute to the work that he did. He did quite a lot of work. Like I told you, Priscilla, Henry has been very pivotal in shaping, especially the celebrity world, bringing us that very important news about music. He was friends, I guess, with so many. He was friends with so many celebrities, like you want to call them. He had that very close contact with them, and you'd always get him talking to anyone if you needed any contact within the celebrity world, within the musicians and all those lifestyle people. He always had that contact. I worked with him very closely in my circles of journalism and investigations, because he always had contacts about some of the agencies in this country, Huawei.
he had quite a big contract in Huawei company, and he has done a lot in shaping journalism. So for sure, it's a somber day. It should be a somber day for the journalism fraternity. Yeah.
All right. Henry Mulindwa, may your soul rest in eternal peace. And to the family and close colleagues that were working with him at Nation Media Group and Daily Monitor, we also will be saying a prayer for you that you may be strengthened in this time of trial, but most especially his family and his wife that he has left behind. May the good Lord give you strength and courage to persevere through this trying season. All right, as we do continue on with Morning at NTV in our Kickstarter this morning, we're going to be looking into assessments of political journalism in an electoral year. Now, reimagining the political landscape as far as journalism is concerned is something that we're going to be tackling. Political journalism is one of the things that is going to be very influential, and it's going to be one of the things that you and I are going to be engaging in between yesterday and the end of the election cycle. So politics remains one of the most captivating topics for any society, especially for us who are around the corner of elections 2025-2026. Now, there is no exception because, especially for a country that is gearing up for elections, journalists are playing an indispensable role that you cannot negate, and they are shaping the public's discourse, holding a power to account, and also informing you as a citizen, because you read the papers, you are ever scrolling on our social media platforms, you are ever looking for the news, but you're looking for the authentic news. However, when you look at political journalism in particular, today it's facing an mounting criticism, not only over the proliferation of misinformation and disinformation, but also on the other side, claims of media bias, on the side of harassment, as well as the increasing influence of political interests in the newsroom. A recent Afrobarometer survey that was conducted in 2014 indicated that 43% of Ugandans expressed distrust in political reporting, citing perceived bias and lack of balanced coverage. Now, as the fourth estate, the media's credibility and effectiveness are under the spotlight now more than ever. We're going to be interrogating the intersection between journalism and in politics here for us in Uganda. Of course, we do have Derrick Wandera once again, who's joining us. He is a political journalist with Nation Media Group. Later on, we're hoping to be joined also by Abubaker Lubowa, who's also a journalist with Nation Media Group. Now, Derrick, let's start with a look at preparedness of journalism as a sector, and also journalists as a people that are going to be engaging in the election coverage, the preparedness politically, mentally, but also on a professional level. As an individual, how are you preparing yourself for this season?
Thank you, Priscilla. Quite a number of things that I am doing as a person. As a person who loves depth in many of the stories that I do, I become, this is the time when I do a lot of reading, I do a lot of research to try to bring myself to speed on the elections that happened, the trends that have been happening in the political circles, and how I can relate my work to what has been reported before. I know the political story has always been told year in, year out. But as a journalist, you are wondering how different and how else can you tell it. So it's going to always be important for any journalist who is going to cover or who is going to tell the political story of this country or of any country, to try to dig history, to try to dig into what others have reported about the political story, but also what have the circumstances been. For instance, a person who reported the 1996 elections, or the one who reported the 1981 elections in this country, could feel very different reporting the 2021 election or the 2016 election. So as a journalist, it's important to try to balance and look at things from all perspectives, from what the story was then, what the circumstances were, who were the political players then, what were their aspirations, and what did they carry for the country. You are just coming out of independence. I mean, you're just entering into the post-independence era, and there's a lot of the stakes are too high that have been set by the colonialists in terms of distance, in terms of understanding of the political story, but also in terms of appreciating politics from the different perspectives and cross-cultural issues. Now you're coming into a political sphere, which should be led by us, the blacks. We're taking the mantra and stuff like that. So that's the 1981 election, and maybe even earlier than that. But then we're drawing even closer to 1996, 2001, 2005. I mean, 2005, 2006, 2011, and 2016 and 2021. And there's so many things that are changing. I know there's been an evolution over time of the political story, how a journalist ought to position themselves to be able to tell the story very authentically. So as a person, I'm always reading about 1981 election, the 1996 election, which I was in 1996, I was about 3 or 4. So I need to read and understand how that story was told by the Onapito, the late Onapitos who were in the field at that time, how it was told by the Dismas Nkundas and Rumendas and staff, and how then do I position myself in these circumstances of a lot of repression, a lot of insecurity, violence and stuff like that, to be able to tell the story without being viewed as a person who is biased in that kind of sphere. But it's very difficult, especially if you haven't contextualized all these matters.
All right, you have talked about, especially in the light of the fact that we're having a lot of issues, especially as far as harassment is concerned. Now, we look at the past elections, including the 2021 general election, where we had over 100 journalists reporting harassment cases to the Human Rights Network of journalists in Uganda. And it begs the question, there's been engagements back and forth with the network and the government, or the bodies and parties responsible, especially the security organs and the Electoral Commission by and large. And we want to find out from you, are there any safety measures and any commitments that have been made of the other parties in order to ensure that there's an environment that is harnessed for you guys to do your reporting accurately and timely?
Unfortunately not. Unfortunately, no. There has not been any kind of commitment, whether written or verbal, to us journalists as we go into this this political season, that we shall be safe, that we shall tell the story without any kind of intimidation, harassment, or even arrest. There is concerted effort from the journalists, and different journalists, defenders, who have put the question to the powers that be on the guarantee of the journalism, or of the journalists being safe in the coming political situation. Unfortunately, the answers have not been forthcoming as they should. They have not been as shrewd as they should, and they have not also been equivocal. Take, for instance, the matters that happened in Kawempe North by-election. We expected a very intentional statement released from the security forces on who exactly it was, because police denied knowledge of this, and so did the UPDF, only to be owned up by the CDF, that he knew exactly who those people were. So from that kind of angle, we expected that the security forces needed to release a statement explaining if these were errant officers, overzealous officers or so, and what were the punitive measures put against them to make sure that this doesn't happen. That didn't happen, and it shows us a picture of this was choreographed. There was intentional decisions and movements to harm the journalist, and therefore the journalists, most of them who are in the field, were targeted. And it even like stretches back to 2021 when we knew for sure that we had been targeted. But of course, a few officers came out to say, no, for us, we have only been,
Please continue.
We are not sure about who is doing this. We are just being blamed because there are a few individual overzealous officers in the field who are targeting journalists. But of course, at that time, the CDF, not the CDF, actually the IGP then, Martin Sokotho-Chola, came out to say that we journalists will be beaten for as long as we cross the line. And one wonders who draws the line and where is the line drawn. Maybe it even becomes blurred as you get closer to it. And even when you overstep it, you don't know whether you have. And he says there, he will beat us and kill us before we cross to the fire. And I think that statement was received with a lot of mixed feelings, especially from journalists, furious feelings they are coming through. But it's because of the kind of political terrain that we are handling right now, where you don't know whether these attacks have been sanctioned by the commanders or a few overzealous officers in the field. Yeah, and Priscilla, for me, I can tell you, I don't think there is any commitment that the security forces or those who hold power are going to tell us or are going to give us. There's a lot of we speak with a lot of pessimism, and that only helps us to even prepare ourselves the more. Prepare on how we are going to be able to tell the story, on how we are going to be able to move forward without being harassed, without even feeling unsafe, and being able to tell the story. Okay.
All right. We're being joined by Abubaker Lubowa, one who has so far faced the wrath of the Titans in the elections 2025-2026 as we're building up to the general elections. Good morning to you, Abubaker.
Good morning, Priscilla.
Well, first of all, you phoned us already started, but I know that you closely worked with Henry Mulindwa, now the late, and we had paid tribute to him earlier. I know that you personally also would like to pay tribute to him.
It's sad that we lost Henry, and he's one of those journalists. You know, in journalism, we meet so many people and forget so many people. But he's one person you will meet, and it's hard to forget him because of his... he has been a jolly man. He has been a person who would advise you whenever he would meet you. He's not someone who would keep pushing you for something he knows that you can't do, but he will always advise on how it should be done. He has been a young man, if I may say, and I think the people in the field of business really know him because he has been one of those business editors, and people who buy the Daily Monitor, you always see those advertorials, you always see supplements. Yeah, supplements. Is one of the people who has been editing those supplements. So he has been a good man. We are going to miss him. I know a lot of people have learned from him, and please, if you've learned something from Henry, which is good, keep teaching others. Okay. Yeah.
All right. Again, may your soul rest in peace, Henry Mulindwa, a supplements editor that has been with Nation Media Group. Now, you found us in the middle of the discussion, and we were looking at the security of journalists, especially political journalists, in a time as this. Derrick here assuring us that there's not been any commitments so far from the state and the stakeholders as far as the elections are concerned, are neither making a commitment, but yet we continuously see journalists becoming targeted more and more, especially with the heightened political environment that we have. And then it begs the question that if there's no commitment that is coming out from the other stakeholders, then you also as stakeholders in the political realm, how are you safeguarding yourselves moving forward in doing your job?
Well, I think the Kawempe by-election painted a picture of what is going to happen in the next elections, because it has been building over time. When you look at what happened in the last elections, I was with Derrick in the last elections. He was arrested, and you know, someone arrests you and tells you, start smashing your phone. He had to smash his phone to save his life. So this has been building over time, and it seems the people who are responsible to safeguard Ugandans with their property are not concerned. And this creates fear amongst the journalists, because when you look at what happened in Kawempe, they always tell us, brand yourselves, so that we can differentiate you from other people. They keep telling you, don't cross the line, don't do this. They give us the do's and don'ts. Of course, as journalists, we also have our do's and don'ts. In Kawempe, we ticked all the boxes, if I may say, because we had the press jackets on, we had the protective gear on, and then one of the security officers then blamed us for why we were dressed as if we are going for war, yet it was just a by-election. But what happened was that there was almost a war in Kawempe, because when you look at how the security was dressed. So it has been a build-up of events that make us feel not safe. I think the safety now we have is from only God, because we have done everything. Unless we go back on the drawing board, unless we go back and we do what is supposed to be done. I think what is supposed to be done in this case is having the police back to guard and keep law and order. The problem is the military has taken over what the police is supposed to be doing.
Militarization of the politics. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, where police would have come in, it's always the military that comes in. And for the military people, for them, they listen to only one word. Actually, it's like, it's a chain of communication that says, don't listen to anyone apart from the commander. Okay. At least for the police, you know, they have received some trainings. I've been in the same trainings on how to handle the media and press with some of the police officers. For them, at least we can now say they have learned a little bit, though they are not yet there, but at least we have, there is promise. But
even in that learning a little bit, at that opportune moment, an order is an order, and they have to defy what you are saying they have learned in order to then respond to the directive that has been given to them.
At least they take the initiative to learn.
Yeah.
But I haven't been to a training where you see army commanders available.
All right. So as we move on, let's look at the political climate that you're making reference to, especially for the fact that you are on the frontline team. Polarization of the politics of the day. Right now we're having primaries, especially the NRM primaries are taking center stage. And you already see that the dynamics are already shifting. There's people that have already lost their lives so far in the different primaries that we are seeing. It begs the question, as these political narratives, Derrick, are being built and used as weapons to the masses, it begs the question, how is it affecting factual reporting for you?
It is a very difficult time to be a journalist, where there is lots of dynamics out there that you're competing against as a journalist, which is why I started by telling you that one has to fully understand being a journalist now, what it means being a journalist now, and being a journalist in, say, 1996, when the first election was held after post the new constitution, the 1995 constitution, that you would hold on to a story and tell it maybe 2 weeks later, and you're very sure that you're the only one who has it, and you would hold on to your scoop for 2 days, and you're very sure that no one has it. It is very hard now to even have an exclusive. That a lot is happening. Citizen journalism has risen beyond the brim. AI has not even done us any better. The change in technology, the technological shifts that are happening in this country, which should be for our good, are actually to the detriment of journalism in most cases. And it would only take level-headed journalists and level-headed media houses that are very keen on gatekeeping, are very keen on in-depth reporting that would keep journalism afloat. In times of this era where you are a journalist, but someone gets hold of you because of their political affiliation and tells you, I'm going to beat up the other person, hold your camera, but I want you to tell the story saying they are the ones who have beaten me. And a journalist will do exactly that. But then, because of citizen journalism, there is another to it. There is another side angle to it, but it's always going to be found in the media spheres, but in the citizen journalism circles. That is also very true on the other side, that citizen journalists can be gotten because they have their phones and stuff like that. And an incident happens, and they are told to report in a certain way, to show pictures in a certain way. And it is going to take mainstream media to realign that kind of misinformation and disinformation. But then it takes time. It takes time. It takes a lot of thought. It takes a lot of skill of journalism for you to be able to counter some of these. And media houses that have not equipped themselves and gotten themselves abreast with the growing technology, with the infiltrations of AI that have come in artificial intelligence, it's going to be very hard for them to tell the political story right now. It's going to be hard because many journalists who practiced in 1995 through 2005, 2006 and stuff like that have a very big problem because of conservatism. They only do understand the way they used to do things. Right now, when you bring on table the growing technological advancements, it becomes hard for them to catch up with it, which I actually think is to the detriment of journalism. The person who is against journalism is using AI. If you have to beat them, you have to go in there and learn how AI works, so that you have two perspectives, that then you're going to know that I can counter disinformation using their own tools, but also be able to use my conservative way of telling the story to drive the point home, but also to shape a narrative, to tell the story authentically. So I feel there should be a lot of training about digital advancement, a lot of training about digital safety, a lot of training about how to use some of these tools, the available tools, the advancing tools, on if we have to tell this story very authentically. Otherwise, we are doomed. Okay.
All right. Becca, do you have something to add to that? Especially in light of the fact that in these seasons we keep seeing now deepfakes are everywhere. It's a thing. Everyone now can use AI, but also there's videos that often turn up in these seasons that are not even Ugandan videos, but they look like Ugandan videos, and they intended to change the narrative or soil the narrative.
I think there's a group of people that hasn't known that there's AI, and they will really take these stories very serious. You know, a video comes up, it has been, you know, concocted and everything. It looks so factual, and audio is played, and it looks so factual. And then the other thing is, then you hear people, did you hear what this person said? I've seen videos of President Museveni dancing, you know, with the hats off, and then, you know, but these are AI videos. But someone will tell you, and will clearly tell you, that the president can dance in that kind of manner and everything. But the kind of journalism we are doing now, where someone can even cook pictures using AI, someone, you know, AI, you just put in whatever you want, and then they will give you the kind of picture that you want. If these kind of pictures keep, you know, being put on social media and posted everywhere, then the police that we are dealing with, because me, I'm now moving to the security, Alicia has talked about the journalism part. Let me now look at the safety of the media. It will be hard for some of these police officers to understand. Someone will get a picture of a police officer, shows how he's hurting people and everything, and then that video comes out, and police will be like, it's the media now that is cooking this, forgetting that there is someone who can just sit on the computer somewhere, you might not actually be even in Uganda, and then does a video.
For them, they'll pin the media, and particularly mainstream media. And
then they will turn back, these security people will turn back onto the media. So we are in a very tough season.
So on that front, Derrick, are there any mechanisms that you believe you can give us recommendations, so that there's sort of a mutual understanding and respect of the journalism as a profession, then also respect between journalism and politics?
It's a thin line that can only be drawn between journalism and politics. Little wonder many journalists end up into politics. And sometimes when they fail to make it to the top national politics, they get back to the newsroom and start telling the story the way they did. Probably it shapes also a different picture from the consumer point of view, that you have gone into journalism, you have gone into politics, failed there, and gotten back into journalism. There is always going to be a thin line, but there is good news that the story that can be told is always going to be as factual as it should, if you tick all the boxes of journalism in terms of the ethical code of conduct, in terms of balance, fairness, and being able to use your sixth sense, for instance, when you're choosing what to tell as a story and what not to tell. how can journalists tell the political story without looking biased? Priscilla, I'm one of the people who have faced that line of people thinking that I tell my story with bias, because of what they call beating. They tell you, they give you a beat that you're going to cover, say, crime, you're going to cover security, you're going to cover politics, and in politics also segmented, are going to cover this political party, you're going to cover these kind of people and things like that. Because of that, you get to understand so much about the beat that you cover that someone will come up with an allegation and it might not be factual, or it might actually be factual, but because they do not understand the context, when you give the context and explain to the logical conclusion, they will feel you're telling the story from the biased point of view. I faced a big problem when the time, I think it was Marema Bilizi who challenged the credentials, paper credentials of the Honorable Kyagulanyi. I had done a story with him, asked him questions about his education, maybe like 3 months before. And because I had asked so many questions, I picked out what to report then and didn't report the whole thing. Now when Mabilizi runs to court, asks Makerere, asks UNEB and other schools to furnish him with papers of Mr. Kyagulanyi, I went into my archives and picked out this information that I had been given, and then just made 2 or 3 calls to him to just verify a few things and also to give any updates and stuff like that. And I published a 2-page story. It appeared on the cover, and everyone was out and rioting. How come you are the only one who has this information? How come you're the first to tell this information? It means you're biased and stuff like that. Now the following day, Bobby Wine had a press conference at Kamonja and almost used my script. And that story was picked the way he said by all media houses. So then I went around with my piece and asked, okay, I told the story first. Tell me something I told that is not what has been told by the other people. The political story is a very big and fundamental piece in a state, in any nation. It's going to take journalists who really take journalism as their career and embrace it as their very important life. But it's also going to take journalists who feel for their country, who have patriotism, to tell that story very well, depending on where you're sitting, depending on which political party you're reporting. If you're reporting from the narration of you being a person who doesn't care about journalism, then that story is actually going to depict that. Okay. And if you tell the story from the side that is, I mind my work, I mind my profession, and I want to only have a clean piece, then it's also going to be taken that way.
Becca, this puts especially political journalists on the hot spot, informing versus influencing. But let's talk about something that has been triggered by what Derrick has submitted. As a person, I have my political views. As a person, I have a political party that I'm more leaning towards. But then there's also me as a journalist. How do you actually separate the two?
You know, journalism is one of the most, can I say, funny job that you can do on earth. As a person, you have feelings. As a reporter, there are things you see and you're like, this shouldn't be happening to a human being. This shouldn't be done by a normal person. Now, when it comes to politics, of course, every Ugandan has that political party that they love at heart. And there's no difference between a person working in a market, a person who is, let me say, a border rider. We are all human beings. But what differentiates a journalist from these people is the professionalism that you have to put in when you're doing a story.
Yeah.
You have to report the facts. That's one things that that's one of the things that we should always look out for. Are you telling the facts? Even if let me say, even if Derrick loves NRM so much.
Why are you smiling?
Okay. Which part do you want me? Okay, Derrick, let me say Derrick loves FDC so much. But then there is a fight at FDC where Derrick is and he's supposed to report. What do you do? Do you have to bury your head? Of course, as a journalist, you have to tell the story.
You have to be neutral.
You have to look for the for the angle that will really bring out what has happened.
Okay.
So as journalists, we have to differentiate between our feelings and then the feelings of of being a journalist. There are things that happen in the field and you feel like this should be reported in this kind of manner. But then when you reach office, the editors tell you, but we have been, okay, that's when the social media thing comes in, every citizen journalism. There's nowhere to hide now. So you have to be a journalist.
Yes.
And I always tell colleagues, if you feel like you want to be a politician, please leave journalism and join politics. We have seen so many of them.
No wonder. But as we are winding up and as you're making your submission, I also want you to talk about the code of ethics for journalists, especially in ensuring there's accuracy, fairness, and impartiality that is observed as we're covering the political season right now. How can we manage the internal pressures from the side of the media houses, the pressures that come in from the political affiliations, and also the personal convictions that we hold to have journalistic integrity?
The Ugandan political story is not told in isolation. There's so many stakeholders that are around it. But let me raise one unpopular view that I've always told people. In organized societies and countries that have democracy, that you can say everything you say without being looked at in a certain way, there's, like for instance in the US, it is always important that as a journalist you come out and speak and declare what your feelings are. For instance, if you are FDC, if you are NUP, if you are NRM, for instance, the Fox comes out and says, for us we are Democrats. And then maybe Al Jazeera comes out and says, for us we are, you know, conservatives and stuff like that. So then we know how to handle that. Me as a person, I have a personal feeling and a view. And in organized societies, I'm supposed to come out and say, I am NUP. But that then doesn't stop me from interviewing a person from Democratic Party. But what it helps is that then when I'm going to meet the Democratic Party person, they know exactly that I am NUP. But the moment we keep veiling and saying we have to be neutral, yes, we are neutral. The only way your story is going to be told to be journalistic is when you tick all the boxes of the ethical code of conduct, like you asked. The fairness, the balance, the accuracy, and the steadfastness. And it has not, we as Uganda, we need to move to that place. And journalists need to be very cautious with all the climate, political climate that's building up and stuff like that. I hope that journalists will remain true to the profession and their feelings.
Be rest assured, Nation Media Group journalists will remain true to the code of ethics and conduct as far as journalism is concerned. As we crown this conversation, we definitely have to realize that as the countdown is on, the clock is ticking towards the general elections, the role of media is to be a watchdog, an informer, and as well as an educator of the things that are happening around you and the things that are critical for this season. So at the end of the day, we're hoping that it's essential to be fair, to be transparent, but at the same time to ensure that we foster the peaceful, non-violent elections that we are hoping for as far as this time round is concerned. That brings us to the end of this discussion on Morning at NTV. We do have another discussion coming your way on TechNote. Do stay with us.